Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Okay, so I saw this article this morning and thought, there's nothing to talk about here. And then I thought, annoying sounds. Yeah, we could definitely do something with that. Can't bear the sound of slurping? You might have misophonia. Sniffing, coughing and slurping are sounds that most of us barely take notice of. But such noises can be so bothersome to some people that they can cause distress, anger and even panic. You may have this condition called misophonia. If you have a strong negative reaction to common sounds, from throat clearing and knuckle cracking to couples kissing. I thought it was an interesting thing. Are there particular noises that really annoy you, whether it's someone, a stranger, or even someone you know and love, that you're like, stop doing that?
Yes, I'd say lots of coffee.
Coughing,
yes,
is annoying.
Yes,
okay.
And if my lovely husband's hearing, first thing in the morning when all you can hear is coughing, to wake up to that noise is rather frustrating.
Okay.
That, and as we were just talking before, the squeakiness of shoes on the floor.
Okay.
I hold my hand up there. Yeah. My new boots are the worst.
Oh, really?
And I have a husband who has, I'm sure, misophonia, because there's so many things that he gets so irritated by.
Oh, how funny.
I know. And I was sort of trying to tiptoe across the floor in the boots because I thought, no, this is not going well.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm leaving now. It's okay on the carpet. But no, I can see that would be so. And we also know somebody, we mentioned before, I know somebody who has for the last 50 years been clearing their throat.
Right, okay, so it's constant. All the time. Oh, yes, that's annoying. Yeah.
It's like just do one really good big cough.
Yes.
Get rid of it.
I think it can be a nervous thing, can't it?
I think it can.
Like, what's the word? Or like a habit, I suppose, as opposed to actually needing to. It's different if you've got a cough, but if you're sort of doing a bit of that, it can be a
bit irritating.
Definitely irritating.
And I would say another one of my worst ones, and I'm sure it's like this for many people, but the barking of my dog. On the beach. She has this high-pitched bark, and
really?
I can't even concentrate. I can't enjoy my walk with this barking. It's crazy. Yeah, don't enjoy.
And
that.
she's your dog.
Yeah,
and this
really
is my
funny.
dog.
It's
Yeah,
not somebody else's dog.
Yeah,
It's usually that, isn't it?
That's really, and that is bad. I do struggle with that when you. Wherever you live, whether you're in an apartment, a house, or a villa, if you're out in the campo or if you're in the middle of the town, normally you're going to be hearing barking dogs. I mean, you really do. Yeah, and I kind of think, why is a dog bark? Because I say it's not normal. Obviously, it's normal for dogs to bark, but I just when it's constant, I kind of think. So presumably, the dog's been left outside while the owners have gone, and the dog, wants attention, wants food. So I always kind of think, it's even though it's annoying because it's the dog's sound. I always think, well, it's not the dog's fault. The owners obviously left it, and it's outside on its own, going, where's my master gone?
Or where's my ball, Mum?
Yeah,
that's why Roxy barks.
Right. Yeah.
I think when dogs are left on their own like that, and there is that constant barking that goes on, it's their stress. It's actually,
absolutely.
I think it's a form of cruelty, really.
Yeah.
And of course, the owners have no idea, because the moment they get home,
Exactly.
it stops.
Yeah.
And you almost have to record it and say, look,
this
this
is what
noise
happens
is
when you're
happening.
out. Definitely. I have thought about
So
that.
this is quite interesting. So I've just recently moved into an apartment with my 2 dogs.
Okay.
And I've obviously been extremely paranoid exactly because of this.
Yeah.
If they're barking. Well, one of them doesn't bark anyway. So I bought one of these little tapper cameras. So it's a little camera, so you can you download the app and then you can log into
That's
it.
clever, isn't it?
But it also alerts you if it picks up any loud noises. So so it's really good. So now it's made me feel a little bit less anxious when I leave the house.
So does a dog make a lot of noise?
Not at all. Not really.
That's
No,
good.
just now and again. And if somebody's trying to deliver a parcel or something, so the
which is
buzzer
fair
goes.
enough. Does its job.
Yeah, so the app will come and say there's a baby crying, but obviously it's not a baby, it's a dog. But so it's very handy.
It's very handy, definitely. Okay, there's a piece here which I thought was really interesting. I found this piece this last week, and I thought, nah, there's no point discussing this with the men. I'm going to save it for the women. It's all to do with decluttering and kind of getting rid of stuff in your house, having a good sort out. There's lots of quotes of Marie Kondo, who was the expert in decluttering, basically, an interiors queen. So the headline says, still drowning in stuff? Now's the time to put your house on a diet. Is this something that you've done? You've just moved, so I suppose you've done.
I move kind of every couple of years, not for any specific reason, but yeah, I just do. So no, I don't have that problem at all. I know exactly what I own and where it is, and so I'm always on a diet with my house. The problem is now I've got no clothes left, so I'm desperate for a clothes
do you
trip.
declutter each time you move?
I do, really.
Consistently?
Yeah. No, I do, because you end up getting things, you end up hoarding things, thinking, I might need that, and especially when it comes to clothes, you think, I might get some use out of that next year. And then you think, did I wear it that summer? No. And you get rid of it. And,
that's good.
Yeah, no. So I know exactly what I've got. But as I said, I am a little bit limited on my old wardrobe now. So,
that's really good. I'm impressed.
I think perhaps it's also a little bit of a generational thing. I think there can be a problem if you've had nothing, you've really been through a situation where you don't have any money, or maybe us sort of, I suppose, baby boomers who were brought up without many possessions, really. Yeah. There is this feeling of hoarding a little bit. And I've sort of thought about this quite a bit, because I'm quite fortunate now because I live in a larger house, and there is actually a place for everything, which I love. But I'm sure I don't need half of the things that I've actually got. But there's always this feeling of, well, maybe times will become hard again. Maybe we will need them again. But I have discovered something over the last year, which I've had a lot of fun doing, and that is selling things on the internet, on Vinted. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just about to get into that.
Oh,
yes.
Love it. It's a bit addictive.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got 5 stars. I have still 5 stars.
Good.
Somebody said I was a really good.
It's really worth it.
Yeah, the cost of that you actually get for the items is not very much. However, the person who's buying it pays for the postage and all of the transport deal. But it does add up. And then they keep it in a sort of a little pot for you there on Vinted. And from time to time, you can have a look at what you got in your pot, empty it into your bank account and think, I'll go and buy something else. No, not really.
Buy something new.
It's a nice feeling, though, because you're not throwing it away. I don't know how it is here, but certainly in the UK, some of the charity shops now, they've become so sort of sniffy about things that they think, we haven't got room for things anymore at the moment, and we're full of stuff. And you think they don't really want it. And this is a way that you really can get it to somebody who really does want it,
which is nice.
It is nice.
You know that it's going to a good home,
and then when they get it, and I have fun because I make sure that they are packaged beautifully. So even if they're old things, they're all freshly laundered, they're ironed, put tissue paper in, put them in a nice plastic bag and everything. So they look nice when you actually get them.
I'm going to have to check your account out.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your username?
So what kind of things are you putting on? Clothes?
Yes, clothes. Yes, mostly it's clothes. Well, actually, nearly all of it is clothes. I haven't really done shoes, not too much. Although I did do some. No, I haven't. No, I've done everything. No, I've done shoes and clothes. Yeah, coats, sweaters.
And I've spoken to a few people about this, about Vinted particularly, and when you're. I don't know how they class it. I haven't started doing it. I don't know how they class designer things or whatever, but anything with a label, you have to kind of prove that it is. And I kind of think, well, how, other than, if you're talking designer, Louis Vuitton or whatever, then I guess there is proof. But if you're just talking, I don't know, what defines design? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm surprised some of the things that they actually classify as designer as in a label, because I certainly haven't sold anything that is Louis Vuitton or anything like that. But I have sold for instance Barbour shoes, sandals, and I had the box for them, which of course makes it really, really nice that they actually arrived and were virtually new. And also I'm a huge fan of Boden, and Boden is classified as designer for some reason, because I don't really think it is particularly designer, because it's available everywhere now. But I just take a photo of the label in the back,
Right,
And Boden
okay.
are lovely because their jeans and things, they have little slogans inside in the pockets, which I really like, that say, I promise to make your bottom look good in this. And please wash me inside out.
I love that.
And,
that's
and you'll
nice.
feel great when you wear me. And these are things that are really, you put them on and you think, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I like that.
And it's only for you. Nobody else has a clue.
Exactly. No
It
one
just
else.
makes you feel good.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. One of the other things they say in this article, which kind of made me smile, the answer to too much stuff is never more stuff. Marie Kondo, she's advising against buying boxes, containers, or new furniture to fix your issues. This is an interesting one because we're all kind of getting containers. We buy containers, so you move stuff from one place into a new place, and then you put a label on it. But I do like doing that.
Yeah.
In my it says pantry. That sounds very grand. It's not as grand as it sounds. But I did a few years ago when I started decluttering. Start putting everything, all my herbs and spices and everything like that into glass jars with labels, and I love it.
Oh, that's nice. But it looks nice as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Really does. Makes me smile.
I think you're probably a fan of Stacey Solomon.
Yes, definitely.
In the same way. I mean, I just think she's great with 5
Absolutely.
children, and she keeps
She's
everything so
amazing.
neat and tidy.
Yeah.
And I remember she wrote on one of her websites or something, her blog, that she was left for about sort of half an hour or something in the day, and she thought she'd paint her whole utility room pink. Because at that time she only had boys. She's since had 2 little girls, and she thought, I'm the only one who does the washing and the laundry anyway, so I'm going to have it pink, the colour that I like. And she's got everything so neat there,
Yeah.
all of the detergents and everything
All
all
in
labelled
pink.
up in little pink cannons. It looks so nice. But
It's
then it makes you
lovely.
feel, well, doing the laundry is not so bad.
Yeah.
Exactly, because she's made it into this beautiful room. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, I love her. I follow everything she does on
Yeah, me
social
too.
media. It's brilliant. Okay, we'll take a break while we swap Stacey Solomon stories.
Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Women Talk with me in the studio today, Katie Wells and Mary Harbo. A few messages I've had in from annoying noises. Margaret has said, just hate men hacking and spitting, especially during COVID. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? The noise that people
gross.
make
Horrendous.
sometimes in the street when they're like, I'm not going to try and do it, but when they do the thing with the back of the throat
God.
to like hurl it. Oh,
it's
God, it's
horrendous.
gross.
Yeah.
And like right in the middle of the street, surrounded by people. I mean, there's no kind of I'll wander off down a side
just do
street.
it privately.
Just,
You know, if you've got to do it, then I get it. But, do it
Yeah.
privately.
So
or when they do it with the
gross.
nose.
Yes.
And the footballers, when they do
Yes.
that as well.
And when they press one nostril, so come on.
Horrible.
We don't need to see or hear that.
That's what tissues are for.
Yes, exactly. Someone else has said, try a squirt gun with the barking dog, if the dog belongs to you, of course. Yeah, I don't think you can go around.
I'll try that one. It's a good idea.
And Gary said, what about cats wailing? Yes, also
Yeah.
can be annoying.
I had a cat actually when I was living here in Spain, and he was half Siamese and half something else. And he cried a lot. And when I went out for work, and I found out that the neighbours had all got this petition. They thought I was leaving a baby in the flat.
Oh, my goodness.
On the because he'd go out onto the terrace and he would start crying. I mean, as in really
wow.
crying for me.
Oh,
I thought I was leaving a
They thought
baby.
he'd left a baby. Oh, that's terrible. I know. Imagine. They must have thought you were the worst woman in the world.
I know. I said, no, it's the cat.
It's the cat. Honest, it's the cat. Oh, terrible. So there's a few articles actually that I discussed with the men last week, and I wanted to save them for the women. This one particularly because it was all about women. Want a stress-free holiday? Travel with 7 perfect strangers, none of them men. So there are groups online that you can find as a single female traveller. I say single. Some of these women are actually married. They just decided they wanted to go on holiday on their own. They made that choice. Some of them are single though. But basically, you can go onto a website. And travel as a single female, but the purpose is to meet up with other single females. So this woman who wrote the article arrived at the airport, met 7 other women. They all said hello, got on the plane together and did a skiing holiday. And she said they all got on really well, and it was just the most fabulous experience. And I thought, what a wonderful, wonderful thing. I wondered how you'd feel about doing something like that?
Do you know what? I think it's lovely. I think as long as you all get on. I mean, is there some kind of like profile where you can see what each other's interests are? I mean, obviously they all like skiing. They've gone on a skiing holiday, but you know, what if half of them want to après ski and the other don't? Or I don't know. You know,
I suppose they don't all have to stick together, do they? I guess if they, you know, if everyone wanted to drink but one didn't, they could choose to either not join in or go back to the room and read, or, you know, I suppose you're not bound to be together. But
I think it's a lovely idea. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I think particularly if it's an activity type holiday, like playing tennis or skiing or something along those lines. Because I think also it is very difficult for women who find themselves on their own, you know, divorced or widowed, or to actually travel on their own. It's a funny thing, even if you've travelled a lot in your life, I think to actually go away to a hotel in another country on your own is not much fun, or it might not be much fun.
Yeah, I think this is a really great thing. I remember when we did our first cruise on our honeymoon cruise, and they had a singles get-together every day on the boat. And initially I read it and thought it meant like a dating thing, but it wasn't at all. It was for anyone who was travelling on their own, who wanted to meet other people who were travelling on their own. So men, women, whoever could meet. Some people might want it to be a dating thing, and it could turn into a dating thing, or it could just be people that wanted company.
Some company, yeah.
So, you know, I thought that's such a wonderful idea, and just imagine that some people, you know, might meet for a coffee and then decide that they wanted to get together later for dinner, whether it was same-sex friendship thing or opposite sex and a possible attraction thing. I just thought that was a great idea, and I thought if you knew that you were going on a cruise, for example, that had that facility, you knew that you always had the potential to meet people, which I thought was a great idea.
And there are a lot of activities on cruises, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely.
So
much.
I think it's nice, and I think, look, the majority of times that I've gone on holiday, and you end up meeting up with somebody, don't you? And you end up being friends with them, you know, for a good few years. I remember as skiing holidays from when I was younger, we'd always have one of the like a ski chalet, but you might share it with another family or something, and you know, we'd stay friends with them for years. So no, I think it's nice to be able to plan something like that and go away with a group of girls, or
definitely.
Do they do mixed ones as well? Or is it just for girls?
I'm not sure. That one specifically was a woman's thing, but I'm not sure. I can't imagine. I wanted to ask the guys about it last week because I assumed, and I assumed correctly, that men wouldn't be so keen on doing things like that. Going on holiday with a load of men they didn't know. They all kind of thought, no, that's really weird.
They're not as good company. They're not as sociable. Women are much better at that sort of thing, dancing.
It's true, isn't it? It's funny. I mean, so many of these things can happen organically, but when you're trying to orchestrate it, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And I think men could easily, in a situation, just get chatting to someone and
just get on
be
with
friendly
it.
and be but to specifically book a trip where they know they're going to meet other men to travel.
I probably
with,
almost think it's a bit awkward.
Yeah, I
There's
think
something
so.
maybe a bit seedy about it or something.
Yeah, just a bit odd. Yeah, I think so. Before we go into the dating scene, let's take another break.
Hannah Murray. TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Women Talk with me in the studio today, Katie Wells and Mary Harbo. I've had a message from Ken. I'm going to change his word to passing wind for the purpose of this story. He said there was a time when one coughed to cover up passing wind. During COVID, one passed wind to cover up a cough. That's true, isn't it? Brilliant. Yeah, nice one. So there is a piece here which I discussed with the men last week that I wanted to save to discuss with the women because I thought it's a really interesting subject. The headline reads, "Forget finding the one. My 40-something female friends are coupling up with 2 or more lovers at once." There's different parts to this. Part of the article talks about the throuple, which is the idea of being in a relationship with 2 people at the same time, as in all 3 of you are in a relationship, which is a strange thing. But a lot of this is just talking about the fact that people are seeing more than one person at the same time. I mean, I couldn't work out how serious the relationships would be. I can't sort of quite imagine being in a serious relationship with someone and seeing lots of other people at the same time. But if you're kind of casually dating and everybody's aware, I mean, as long as everyone's on the same page, I kind of think presumably that's okay. If it's a casual thing, then I don't see anything wrong with dating more than one person.
I don't see an issue with it. And listen, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to maybe kiss a few frogs, haven't you, until you find your prince. And same for men as it is for women. But yeah, I think if it turns a bit more serious, and like you say, I think you've got to be honest with each other, then I don't see it being an issue.
No.
Really?
I think it's all down to how serious, you know, the relationships are. But I think it might be difficult or awkward to go from something which isn't serious and then suddenly you realise actually, you know, you do have feelings for somebody and they are still seeing other people. And then you think, well, do I stop seeing other people at the same time? Or does that mean that I'm going to end up with actually nobody?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's an odd conversation to have, isn't it?
It is. It really is. If you've agreed with someone that this isn't serious, it's just a bit of fun, but then you start feeling more for them, it's awkward. Can be, or vice versa, obviously. Yeah, it's a weird one. But yeah, I think with anything like that, as long as you're constantly talking about it and being honest, and as long as you're on the same page and no feelings get hurt, then life is perfect.
Yes.
It all sounds so easy, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Katie and I were saying outside there, I asked the question, so if it's a throuple, is it usually two women and one man?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't see many men being happy with a throuple the other way around.
No. Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not.
And really face it, who would want two men? One's enough. Jinx.
That's funny. There's one here talking about women upgrading their engagement rings. It's a trend favoured by Victoria Beckham and the Duchess of Sussex. Now, many other married women are opting to upgrade or change engagement rings. Jewellers say men tend to pick a safe design to propose with, but some wives later tailor it to their own taste when the couple can afford to. There's a woman, bizarrely, in London's Hatton Garden. I don't know if it's the same woman, which would just be hilarious, in Hatton Garden, talking about how common it is for it to happen. Because my engagement ring came from Hatton Garden, from a friend who worked in a jeweller's there. And we went there, and it's a simple ring. It's not like a crazy thing at all. And there was a woman there who owned the shop who had a ridiculously large engagement. I mean, it was obscene. Yeah. And she said that she upgrades her ring every few years. Like, they obviously had a ridiculous amount of money. And I said, aren't you nervous that someone would steal it? And she said, oh no, whenever I'm out and about in London, I turn it round.
Okay.
So it's inside. And I kind of think, oh, what's the point? Can you really be bothered to do that?
No, it's just more of a status symbol, isn't it, really? Let's face it.
Exactly. But if you know, being in central London and you know, having to be so worried, you know, it's like Rolex.
It's like wearing a Rolex.
Things like
in
that.
Marbella.
You have to be so careful. I just think, I don't know if I could be bothered with all of that.
Well, I certainly wouldn't change mine or upgrade
I wouldn't
it
change
because
mine.
It's from Ken's mother. And it's like 70 years old, so no,
wow.
I don't think all the money and special diamonds in the world would never replace that.
Exactly, that's beautiful.
I can understand that. No, I wouldn't change mine either. I haven't had it for that long because I've not been married for that long.
He did so.
But the story of when it was bought, I know that my now husband phoned the jewellers and said, did they allow dogs to go with them? This is very important because actually everything to do with our house or anything that we've bought that's large, it's all been dependent on that, whether we can take Maddie with us to choose the carpets or the sofa or whatever it is. If they say no, they lose the business. So they said, no, we'd love to have your dog. So actually he went with Maddie to choose my engagement ring, and later that evening we went out for dinner. I had no idea this was going to happen at all. With Maddie, again, the dog was there, of course. And suddenly in the middle of it was a sort of great sort of fluster and down on one knee, the whole thing.
Wow.
I know. We were all a little anxious that he wouldn't be able to get up afterwards. No, it was
the dog was there to help him up.
Yeah, exactly.
We all were. No, it was very traditional, and no, I would not change it.
No, I would. I sort of think, I'm glad you all said that because I wanted to say this and I thought I'd wait and see what you both said first before I say this. I sort of feel it's a bit kind of rude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
I find it a bit...
When it's losing its meaning.
Yeah,
isn't
exactly.
it?
If you want to buy yourself a new ring to put on another
exactly,
finger
just buy another
with
ring.
bigger diamonds or whatever,
Yeah.
do. But to say, can we get a bigger one? Can we get a better
Yeah.
one? Can we get a... Wow, I think it's really
Or
disrespectful.
some people buy like a second ring like 20 years after they're married or something.
Yes,
They don't
an
an eternity ring.
Yes,
yeah,
which
I mean
is
that's a
lovely,
bit
and you can
different.
put that on
but
the same
to say I'm
finger.
going to change my actual engagement ring, yeah, I do. I think
it's
just doesn't matter
horrible.
whether it's £100 or £100,000 pounds. You know, it should be.
It's the sentiment. Yeah, I
Definitely,
agree.
the sentimentality of it is just...
You shouldn't mess
You can't
with
put
it.
a price on that,
No,
can you?
absolutely. I agree. Yes, I like that. Friends of mine have done that. The eternity rings. You've got the wedding band, the
Yeah.
engagement ring, and then another one on top. They look really nice,
Yeah.
the three together. That's a
How
nice
long do you have to be
idea.
together to get one of those?
I'm just thinking
If you're in Holland, it's 12 and a half years.
12 and a half?
They do multiples
Okay.
of 25.
Okay. We're not in Holland, though, are we?
No.
No, we could
do it
pretend.
sooner.
We can go to quarter.
One?
Yeah, 1 year. I've done. This year will be 6 years for me.
Oh, very
So
good.
maybe 10. Maybe 10's a good kind of year.
10's a good number,
10, yeah.
Or 6 and a quarter.
Or 6 and a quarter, yes. We'll decide. This was a definite one I wanted to talk about with the women. I did ask the men about it this week. I know that you'll have strong opinions on this. The male pill. A male contraceptive pill that can be taken... So this is interesting. It's not the same as the women's contraceptive pill. This one can be taken half an hour before sex. It's been hailed as a game changer. While there are currently no versions of the pill for men, with condoms and vasectomies the only option, contraception experts say they've found a treatment which kicks in within minutes and hopes it can be developed to last for 16 hours.
Wow.
If
If it works, brilliant.
I just think there's so many issues to this. I mean, one of the things that came up first of all with the guys is it takes out any kind of spontaneity. So the fact that you need to take it half an hour before, it needs to be a planned kind of situation.
Yeah, and if you see them taking it and you think, you think you're going to get lucky tonight, do you, love?
Exactly. Who said, yeah.
Is it, sorry, was it a pill, did you say, or an injection?
pill.
It is a
A
pill.
pill.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, you could slip it into their drink. Just in case.
Yeah, you could. You can make the decision and put it in their drink without them knowing. That's a good thing. Yeah. But yeah, there's lots of kind of issue. What about if the guy said that he's taken one and you haven't seen him take one? Would you trust that he actually has taken one?
You'd have to see them taking it. But like you said, that could be a bit awkward, couldn't it? But I don't know. I think something's better than nothing.
Yes, it's good to see there's progress in
Yeah.
that, but I don't think this is a perfect solution.
No.
And I think it would be something that would only be used if you were in a sort of a long-standing relationship and a very sort of solid relationship. I can't think that it's something...
So then hopefully the
that
trust issue wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
be saying, well, did you take it? You know.
No. Yeah,
And of course, there's
exactly.
no other protection also from sexually transmitted diseases or similar.
Yeah, I can't imagine situations of women, being in a bar and meeting a guy and going back to their place, and the guy says, "Oh, don't worry, I've
had
taken
the
a
pill."
pill."
Yeah, and it's like,
no, don't think that would happen.
Yeah.
But yes, in a serious relationship, when you've been together for a while, you've decided you don't want children, then and hopefully you don't need to worry about sexually transmitted diseases. Therefore, it could be an option.
It could be, and I think it's nice that it's not all maybe just put down onto the woman. It's not just the woman's responsibility. I mean, lots of women have difficulties with some of these, with the pill
pills,
or with injections. I know I had lots of problems with them. So yeah, I think it's good for that. But yeah, I don't think it should be used as a quick short-term solution for a one-night stand.
No. Imagine if it was the same as the women's pill, though, and they had to take it every day.
Yeah. Every
think
day
that would
and
be
then
difficult.
stop for a week or stop for 5 days and then remember to take it again.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a thing. I think men would struggle with that, definitely. Just because they're not used to it,
Yeah.
It'd be a weird thing. It can be difficult to get men to take pills at the best of times.
Well, surely there's not a patch. Well, there's a patch for women, isn't there? Maybe if it was in a patch form or something, it's something
and then
that
it's
you just
stuck to the arm
wear
and you
every
can't
day.
kind of, The Bank of Mum and Dad. bailed out by £17 billion Bank of Mum and Dad. Parents have long been handing over their hard-earned cash to children who are well into adulthood. And the so-called Bank of Mum and Dad is now one of the most generous financial institutions in the land. So much so that it's now said to be fueling inequality. Around £17 billion is handed out by parents to their offspring in gifts or informal loans annually. Most of the cash has been given by parents over the age of 50 to children in their 20s and early 30s, with nearly a third of young adults receiving at least one substantial transfer of £500 or more only over any 8-year period. Wow. Sounds a lot. Is that normal? I don't know. What experience have you had either as a parent?
When I was younger, as a teenager, I was working from a really young age. I had to. I mean, my dad was okay. You know, he was reasonably wealthy, but he certainly didn't want to, be handing a silver spoon to us. Yeah. So I would work, and I always remember my some of my closest friends, still friends with them now. They would all get an allowance, and I think it was about £300 a month. Which for them was quite, that's quite an amount. Gosh. So on a Saturday, I'd be there working, either on a market or a burger stand or in a hotel waiting on. And, and I'd be getting, £2.50 an hour or something, I think the basic wage was then. And they would be there with their nice allowance. And it did. I mean, it kind of, we still were friends and we remained friends, still are friends now, but I used to always think, oh God, you're lucky so-and-so, So there was then a little bit of a divide,
But when you look back now, do you feel like he did it the right way? Do you feel like you learnt the value of money more by having to work for it, or do you still think...
I'm still really bad with money, so probably not. No, I think there should be a balance. I think you should help your children as and when it's required for, driving lessons and, maybe a nice school holiday or something, a skiing trip or something like that, something where it's around education or to help you, Sometimes I think you do need that little bit of help on the ladder. But to have that instead of maybe having a little Saturday job or something like that, no, I think that's really important. I think that makes you who you are, and it makes you that little bit more grateful when you are growing up. And I know I certainly haven't been like that with my own children. Yeah. I help them out, but I would certainly not just go, oh, don't worry, don't do any work, don't help anybody, even if it's just helping somebody to paint a garden wall or something. It's nice, it's good to have, and I think it's important to have that achievement and to be rewarded with pay, and with money, and not just to be given it.
Yeah, I always had holiday jobs and worked at, anything from sort of pulling vegetables to selling hamburgers to the lot. And I never, ever felt right asking my parents for money. In fact, there have been times of my life when I've really been without, and they actually did spot it, and they stepped in and offered to help me, but I would never have asked ever. And I don't know why. It's just it's a strange thing, and I do think that sometimes if you keep giving, there is a complete lack of appreciation, and there is this feeling of never standing on your own 2 feet, which is what life is about. And I remember when we first met, Hannah. I remember you telling me about when you were in Australia and you ran out of money, and your friend was saying, "Phone your parents; they'll help you."
I'll tell Katie and the listeners. So I was in Australia, and my friend and I ran out of money. And she, as in literally ran out, when neither of us had credit card, we slept on the street for a couple of days and were finding money on the floor in order to buy bread. I mean, literally had nothing. And she phoned her parents, and her parents had a fair bit of money. And she literally turned on the waterworks. She said, oh, I'll make sure I'm, crying when I speak to them. And she literally, oh, Mum, Hannah and I have got no money and we're sleeping on the streets. And, she really piled it on. And her mum said, oh, my baby, don't worry. Okay, I'll transfer, I think it was £400, £200, £400, can't remember. I'll transfer money into your account, don't worry. Oh, thank you, Mummy, thank you. And then she hung up the phone and stopped crying and said, oh, Hannah, why don't you ring your mum? And I said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. I don't want to. I'm the same as you, Mary. I felt, no, I never liked asking my mum and dad for money. And she made me do it, but I didn't cry. I didn't put on the waterworks or anything. I just explained the situation. And my mum went quiet, and then she said, "Isn't it exciting when you've got no money?" And I was what?
Because your survival instincts kick in and you find a way to survive.
She said, "Go and speak to the Aboriginal people." I was like, "They haven't got any money." She said, "No, I mean, just experience life."
Absolutely, they'll show you how to survive.
Yeah, I've never forgotten that. And it's you when you're in tough times, that's when you have to, it's better to kind of see how you react and see how you grow and see how you get yourself out of those situations. If people just hand you money, you never experience tough times or suffering or
I was talking to a friend who has a child he's now 18, and she was wishing for him the one thing that I don't think you can actually have without experience, which was resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that it's only those experiences of literally having nothing and working out how to get over this that does make you resilient, and it makes you able to face life. And I do think that perhaps the generation that is coming up younger now, I mean, they are known as the snowflakes, and they are very precious, and they do seem to lack that characteristic.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I think that will continue. And I'll never forget a time when I was going from Mallorca to here, and it was this one day when I couldn't get I only had enough money to get the bus, and the bus service was on strike. And the taxi service was also on strike. And I really needed to get to the airport. And I literally had no other money apart from literally my flight ticket. So it was awful. I mean, I don't recommend anybody does this. But I mean, this is like talking about hardship and finding, your survival instincts. Well, I ended up just having to hitchhike.
Yeah.
And it was a really scary process because, you hear of all these awful stories and young girls being kidnapped. I mustn't have been any more than like 19, 20.
Wow.
So I did. And I remember it was I think I just had a mobile phone, and I sent a text message, which was very expensive back then. And I sent a text message, I think, to one of my friends or my sister or something, just to say, look, I've ended up having to hitchhike because all the public transport's on strike. So if anything, if I go missing, this is what's happened.
Oh, gosh.
And I had to wait in the airport. Anyway, I finally got to the airport, and this lovely couple took me, and they were really nice.
Oh.
And I was very lucky. And got to the airport, and anyway, I found out my flight, I was 24 hours early or something like that for my flight. So I had to sit in the airport, and I had no money for any food.
No.
And I sat in the airport for nearly 24 hours, and I think I managed to get a bottle of water off somebody. So that was a good experience. But hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly.
Resilience.
Yep, brilliant. Okay, we're going to take our last break before we come back with all the fun, controversial stuff.
Hannah Murray, TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 10 to 6. You're listening to Women Talk. With me in the studio today, Katie Wells and Mary Harbo. Before we move on to the next part, I was going to talk about the headline is, do you know what's in your child's school library? And it's talking about some really interesting books and with some quite shocking subject matter. Mary, you were saying about the top 10 happiest countries list came out today.
Well, yes, only because I feel that all of this sort of gender discussions and libraries and the situation in schools, certainly in the UK, it all seems so incredibly confusing and unhappy for so many young people and children. And it should really be a very happy and I think relaxed time of your life. You don't need this. And I was wondering why it was that the countries that have come out top of this happiest country in 2023 in the world, why them and not us and not Spain either, unfortunately. And strangely enough, that the top 4 are countries where the weather isn't even great.
We've got Finland is at the top, then Denmark, Iceland, Israel, Netherlands, Sweden, Norway and Switzerland. So that's the top 10. So none of them are hot countries. No. Israel, perhaps.
Israel, yes, in certain. I've been to Israel several times. Feel honoured to say, and I know that in Israel it's a very different situation because I have the distinct impression that most of the people who are living in Israel are really happy to be in Israel, and they all have a story that's come behind them that's brought them to that place. So it's a rather unique situation, I think, in the world. But looking looking at Finland and these countries like Denmark, very dark winter, no light, which is such a depressing situation. But I saw some Finnish people interviewed today, and they were all saying, oh, it's the small things that make us happy. It's the small things. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a gem that we've lost in the sort of overwhelming, huge things of trying to change sort of society. And it has to start. I mean, these things must start, surely, with our children and education and school and carrying forward that sort of optimistic, bright personality. Which somehow seems to, sadly, have been lost, certainly from the UK at the moment. That's my impression. I don't have children of school age. I have grandchildren of school age who aren't actually educated in the UK. But from what I've seen and what I've discussed with friends, that's the impression I get. And when I see these articles about these books, which are so heavy and miserable, and, are you... I'm not happy, a body dysmorphia and all these other issues. And do you think that you should have been a boy when you were a girl and the rest of it? And, why can't you just sit and read some Enid Blyton and things that are politically incorrect and upsetting in every way, or some Harry Potter and just get on with it and just enjoy. Go kick a football.
Yeah, still learn about who you are, and
you've got a lifetime to find out who you are. I mean, most of us, even at my advanced age, we're still asking ourselves,
who are we? Yeah.
Why did I do that? That was really weird. What was all that about? I think these are things you question throughout your life, and why you need to be burdened with it at the age of, I think we're talking here 11, 10 even.
Yeah, really.
I mean, really, please, no.
I think it's too much. So this particular article, so Maya Kobabe is a 33-year-old comic book illustrator who lives in San Francisco and has achieved a mixture of fame and notoriety as the author of a highly controversial graphic memoir called Gender Queer. Released in 2019, it tells how Kobabe was raised as a girl but came out as bisexual in high school before deciding 7 years ago to identify as non-binary, choosing to adopt the preferred pronouns em and er, I've never heard that before, instead of she, them and their. I don't know if that's something he's made up for the purpose of the story.
Is he not adding to it though? Oh, I don't know. No,
I don't know. He said E, M and er instead of she, them and their.
But then it's just labelling it with something else.
Exactly. Why are you giving more names to it? I don't understand. Along the way, the book takes in a number of unconventional and extraordinarily graphic sex scenes, and I'm stopping there because it's really graphic. But this is for youngsters to read. There's another book here, Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teen Speaks Out.
And just to point out, Hannah, I think you did at the beginning, that these are books which are available in a library, in the school library of a very expensive, I think it's a private day school we're talking about there. So these are books that some committee of education experts have decided are appropriate to put in the library.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we just had National Geographic.
Yeah, very different. I mean, I struggle with this because it is a situation that's happening. I've had people contact the station and contact me because they've listened to the programme, and there are children out there who are going through these issues. So it's not, something we're reading in the newspaper that isn't actually happening. It is happening. There are children who are transgender and feel like they have been born in the wrong body. It is an actual thing. It is a serious thing, and it needs to be talked about, and we do need to understand that it is something that's happening. So I think the fact that these books are being written, I actually think is a good thing. But for them to be readily available to everybody and anybody, I don't. I think if your child is asking questions and feeling unhappy, I think the fact that there is literature out there that they can relate to, that the parents can read as well, and you can kind of discuss as a family, I think is brilliant.
Yeah. I think if it's something that can be purchased or rented,
I think that's a really good thing.
A counsellor or something like that, that this child might have seen, they might recommend it. It's something out there. Or like you say, even the parents just go, well, do you know what, Tommy wants to be Tammy or whatever,
Yeah.
So let's do some research, let's get some information, let's get some books for him, her. But yeah, I think just for any child, just to be able to pick these off the shelves in the library. I mean, I know what it would have been like when I was back at school if these things were on the shelves. Everybody would just be, taking the mickey, shall we say, and I just think it would have caused a lot of distraction. And actually, there might be kids there that are feeling this, but then they can see the reaction of the other children and then might be even more fearful or scared to come out.
Or also children who aren't feeling it at all, but pick up a book and go, oh yeah, maybe I want to be a boy, without really feeling it and really going through, just thinking that we can have the choice. A lot of these books that I've seen in various newspaper articles, are literally encouraging children to ask those questions about themselves. Are you a boy? Do you feel more like a girl? And really getting children to think about it. And I think it's making more children go down that road that wouldn't go down that road if adults weren't asking them those types of questions.
And so are then now putting themselves with this new label of non-binary.
It's just becoming more and more normal.
And I just think it's contradictory, because you're saying that you don't want a label, but then you've just given it another label. I can't get my head around it. So that's just my opinion.
No,
I don't want to cause any problems for any listeners, but I just can't quite get my head around it.
Yeah, it is difficult.
Well, I think we all feel, don't we, that people can live their lives as they want to. It doesn't bother anybody as long as it makes them happy and it doesn't affect anybody else. Absolutely fine. But I do think this is an incredibly worrying trend of having surgery or making these drastic steps that you can't go back on, of changing your sex, and then maybe 10 years down the road thinking, well, I made a huge mistake. And it being too late. So
it's difficult, isn't it? How would you ever know, if you felt like that for a long time? I think it's very difficult to police, if you like, or to make laws or ruling with that, how long you have to decide you want to go through the change before that can happen. I think that's very difficult to say, okay, it should be 10 years, it should be 20 years. I mean, it's children. There's been articles about the fact that it can happen before the age of 18. You can start taking the pills.
The hormone pills,
exactly, and start going through the transition.
But these women, and true, they're very much a minority, but we've all heard about them, and now you can't say breastfeeding, you have to say chest feeding. So I mean, women who have decided that they don't want to be a woman anymore, they want to be a man, but then they find themselves in a relationship later on and decide, okay, I had my breasts removed, I've had all the other sort of surgery needed, but I am going to become pregnant now. And this is, of course, a very complicated situation. Very, very complicated.
That's I'm sorry, that's a new one to me. Chest feeding rather than breastfeeding.
Oh yes,
but it is a breast.
No, the chest feed, and you can't say mothers anymore. You can't say mothers in labour. They're parents in labour. No. These are all issues that are going on in the NHS as we speak.
Isn't it marvellous?
Is this just a British thing at the moment?
We've got less than 30 seconds left, and we're finishing on
such an unfortunate note to end on. Please, can we not be the happiest country?
Yes, to all the mothers out there and all the fathers and everyone in between. Yes. Thank you, ladies, very much for coming in today, and lovely to see you both, Katie Wells and Mary Harpo. Thank you. Always lovely to see you, and enjoy your weekend. I'm not in tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday at 4:00.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.